All right, welcome back to the Dungeon of Doom. I am Kyle Mikey, Lions beat reporter for MLive, joined as always by Ben Raven. Ben, the Lions coming off another win in Minnesota, big win, coming back home 5-1. 1-5 Tennessee Titans on deck at Ford Field, but lots of things to be maybe mindful of, concerned of, depending on your point of view, with the Jamison Williams suspension pending, still navigating the loss of Aiden Hutchinson, figuring out the edge rush there. I guess how you feeling going into what could be maybe a trap game?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of things to consider: the pass rush, the lack of pressure, how they had to manufacture it, and then also just kind of like the looming Jamison Williams situation. I would say in terms of the schedule, probably best case timing, not trying to overlook the Titans too much, but 1-5, struggling on offense and trading away DeAndre Hopkins, trading away Ernest Jones, potentially trading away more, Mason Rudolph under center. So, yeah, just don't overlook them too much, and it should be a decent win for the Lions this weekend. But yeah, it's a lot to consider, man. A lot of outside noise coming in, no doubt.
I mean, you'd expect to win in a game like this for a team like the Lions that are, I mean, no doubt. But there are, winds blowing against them right now. Jamo being the biggest one. And as of this recording, not officially suspended yet. He's still working through the appeals process. We haven't heard whether he's going to appeal or not, but Dan Campbell said this week the Lions are prepared to be without him, expect to be without him. So that's where we're at right now as of this recording. And I think that's a big potential loss for the offense. I mean, he's second in the league in yards per catch, second on this team in receiving, and by far the biggest downfield threat. And without him on the field, you lose some of the explosiveness over the top. You also lose the threat of the explosiveness over the top, which affects defenses and how they play Detroit. I don't think that potential loss can be understated. It really helps to spread out the defense and allows guys to cook underneath. And how many times do we see guys making plays in the intermediate field? Guys like Khalif Raymond in the last game, but obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs. The guys have all made big plays, turning short passes into long chunk plays. And Jamo and the threat of Jamo is a big reason for it. And much like Hutch on the other side of the ball, there's no replacing that kind of skill set. They have guys they like in Tim Patrick, and I think we'll see a lot more Allen Robinson, maybe some more Isaiah Williams, who hasn't played yet this year. None of those guys is going to do what Jamo does. And so I think we potentially will see a different kind of game plan from Ben Johnson as they try to figure out how to keep this offense on track.
Yeah, because Jamo's presence just kind of pushes everything from the defense back a little. It makes you account for the back half of that field. It opens up the running game. The thing that the Titans have working for them is that they have three studs on defense in Snead, Landry, and Simmons. And you take Jamo out of there, Snead can play closer on St. Brown. Snead can get a little more into his press bag a little bit, if you will. So yeah, it does change the offense a little bit, just because as good as Tim Patrick is playing, as good as Khalif Raymond looked last week, there's not a Jamison Williams replacement in the NFL based on the speed he brings and the threat he poses downfield. So yeah, it is going to be interesting to see how they get the running game going. Montgomery's good, it sounds like, so that's a positive. But yeah, it is just going to bring that Titans defense in a little closer to the line of scrimmage, I think, without worrying too much over the top, and that does change things.
We'll dive into the mailbag here in a second, but let's talk about Jamo for a second. It's he's being suspended reportedly for 2 games, again pending appeal or his option to appeal, for a violation of the league's substance abuse policy. And it's just 2 games, which is the least amount possible. We don't know what the substance is or what he did or is alleged to have done yet. Right. But obviously it's the minorest of infractions. And yet, Ben, it's an infraction, and the Lions for the second time in 2 years are losing Jamo to a league-imposed suspension. There was the one for gambling last year, and there was a lot made about the severity of the crime and maybe the punishment outweighing the severity of what he did. Betting on non-NFL games from a team facility. What I heard was that he was sports betting from inside the facility. And listen, if you pay attention to the league trainings, then you know that that's against the rules. And Jamo said he didn't know it was against the rules, and so a kid made a mistake, not just being ignorant, basically.
Mhm.
And it's on him as a professional to know the rules. But I think we can all understand, too, that 6 games was way too much for what he did.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was eventually cut to 4 games. And yet here we are for the second time in 2 years talking about Jamo breaking a rule that carries this kind of, a suspension. That's a big deal. The Lions are in a dogfight
Yeah.
in the league's best division. I think they can handle Tennessee without him, but Green Bay next week, that's an important game.
Yeah.
And Jamo right now he might not be out there for that. And that's on Jamo, man. And there's got to be, I don't think alarm bells should be sounded. He's not alleged to have done something super serious, but he did something. He's alleged to have done something that, man, you put something in his body that you can't. And the Lions have so many resources.
Yeah.
You just have to text somebody and say, hey, is this okay? Send a photo of whatever supplement you're taking or food you're eating or whatever. And you can avoid the situation. And he didn't. And it's the second time in 2 years where it's just an unforced error that leads to Jamo, the most dynamic guy going over the top for this offense. That's a huge role in this offense, hurting his team by doing something dumb or ignorant or whatever the case may be. We haven't talked to Jamo yet, so it's hard to say exactly what happened. But listen, it's not good. I'm not like, hey, Jamo, he needs to be cut or don't resign him. Like you're already seeing those kind of think pieces out there about what this means for his possible extension. I'm not ready to go there yet, Ben. But this is still a bad situation that's totally avoidable, and it's again a 23-year-old kid who is in his third year in the league and should know better, and he continues to make mistakes that he should know better about.
Yeah, because it's like with the gambling policy. That information is out there. I mean, we had NFLPA reps talking to us in the media room yesterday going over like this information is given to them. I mean, it's a long list of things you're not allowed to put in your body, but that list is generated. That list is shared with the players. That is things that they try to force players to be aware of. And I mean, you said it. I mean, that was talking with somebody yesterday, and it's just like all he has to do is text one of the 90 trainers / doctors in this building. Can I take this? Is it cool to take this? Can I get a prescription to take this? Can I get approval to take this? There are so many doors he could have gone through to avoid this from happening, because you said it's an unforced error. And I think Dan Campbell was real as hell about it yesterday. It was I thought it was one of his best quotes, because I mean, he said it straight up. You got to pay for your sins. We put the rope down for this kid last year. He eventually got up to us. Maybe he lost his grip along the way, and we'll wait for him to get back to us. But like, I trust this kid. But it's just, Campbell wasn't supposed to say jack nothing about that situation yesterday, and we got like 4 minutes of information from the podium, which was fascinating. But yeah, just I liked the analogy Campbell used, and I liked that he was real about it. Like, this is an unforced error, because yes, Jamo's young. Yes, this was a mistake on his part, but there's like 60 other players in that locker room that aren't getting in trouble for this, that are avoiding those pitfalls. And it's more disappointment, because you're like, man, second suspension in 3 years. You missed all that time your rookie year. And now when you're at your best and the positives are outweighing all the negatives, and it's just, here we are again, man. It's disappointing. And it's just, you got to take advantage of those resources is the main message I would get across to him. There are so many resources for that kid. Use them.
It's crazy to see the JMO opinions online and on Twitter and in stories. I mean, it's so unbelievably polarizing, one way or the other. We've seen it throughout his time in Detroit. I guess it comes with the territory of having superpowers, like superstar potential, and there's people online. I already see it. Like, he's young. He just made a mistake. Like, yes, he is young. Yes, he made a mistake. I don't think being young is an excuse for making this mistake again.
Right,
like it's a different thing, but like, you got to be like, these are all pros, and you don't see, like, he's 23. You know who else is 23? Penei Sewell. And you don't hear about Penei Sewell needing his hand held through the league, like navigating the policies, what's allowed, what's not. Like, and this is the second time Jamo's gotten popped. Like, I've never heard of Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now in year 4, I think he's 24. Like you don't have to worry about him. Like, he's gonna give you everything in practice. He's gonna give you 201 reps on the machine, on the jugs after practice, and he's gonna come back the next day and be exactly the same guy. And you don't have to worry about whether you're gonna have him on Sunday. And these are challenges they've gone through with Jamo. And I give all the credit in the world to Jamo for coming in, being
Mhm.
immature, I would say by professional standards, and a little ignorant to some things, and really working hard and
Yeah.
really coming a long way. I mean, he has, like,
Mhm.
he's not the same guy now as a dude or as a football player that he was even a year ago, let alone 2 years ago.
Yep.
So credit to Jamo, like the progress is real in terms of how he approaches his job and how he performs at his job. Um, but this is a setback, and it's a unforced error on his part, and he continues to let down
Mhm.
his teammates. I mean, like, this team has one goal: it's to win the Super Bowl. It's to make the Super Bowl. That is the stated goal. And as Dan Campbell likes to say, like, you only take it one game at a time, but you know where you want to go.
Yeah.
So work
Yeah.
backward from that. That's what Dan Campbell says. And to give yourself the best shot, win your division, get some home playoff games, and ideally the road to the Super Bowl goes through Detroit. And winning a game in Green Bay, in the toughest division in football, where right now there's
Yeah.
little room for error, these are important games. That's why winning in Minnesota was so important.
Yeah.
And now Jamo has put himself under the threat of not playing in Green Bay. And this is all happening a week after they lost Aiden Hutchinson. Like,
Yeah.
I give tons of credit to the Lions for navigating a series of losses over the last 2 years, um, and playing as well as they have. It speaks to their depth and the player acquisition from Brad Holmes and the coaching from
Mhm.
Dan Campbell and his staff. I mean, it's exemplary stuff, but you're making it harder. Jamo is letting down his team by making these kinds of mistakes that are totally avoidable. And the kid needs to grow up, and he has to this point, but this is a setback. And, you know, we'll see where they go from here, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's a distraction to the coaching staff because they have to answer these questions. It's a distraction to his teammates because there he is on the practice field, and you're getting asked about things you can't answer either. It's just he's bought himself a lot of leeway with the improvements he's made in a year, but it's still okay to be disappointed and talking about all the things we're talking about without writing him completely off because the work he has made to climb that rope, as Campbell said, deserves credit. But it is at the point where it's like, man, this is twice in 3 years. Is this going to be a continued problem? Is it always going to be something? Whether not even talking about injuries, but like these suspensions, man, this is not normal, and it's okay to realize it that way, especially in this building. It's not normal. So use those resources. It's okay to be disappointed in them. It's okay to be upset. Don't cape for him too hard, and don't cape too hard the other way. But like, be disappointed in him because this is disappointing.
Agreed. Let's dive into the mailbag. As always, these questions can be fired off to us via the subtext. Look on MLive, any line store. You can find where to sign up for that, and free trials. William Anderson kicks us off, and I chose this question because, again, we got a bunch more questions about the edge rushing situation. So William very succinctly asks, are the Lions pursuing an edge rusher? They are. Brad Holmes is working the phones. We've heard that much. We could know that much without even
Right.
hearing it, but we're also hearing it. What kind of guy comes in remains to be seen. They already poached Isaiah Thomas off of the practice squad in Cincinnati. He did not play in his first game in Detroit last week in Minnesota, but he might play this week as he gets his feet wet. Pretty explosive, big, long guy. I think, we're going to get, I mean, we have questions about Zadarius Smith coming up, about Max Crosby coming up. Like, these are the names people are fixated on. Don't listen to a ton of sports radio anymore, but I've been driving around Detroit handling errands and listening to sports radio in the past few days, and I feel like it's always Max Crosby this and Max Crosby that, and trade the farm for him. And I think that's still unlikely, Ben. That's not Brad Holmes's MO. But then again, this is a big year with, Super Bowl aspirations. I guess, where are the Lions at, do you think, in terms of their pursuit of help for losing not only Aiden Hutchinson, but Marcus Davenport, John Kaminsky, Derek Barnes, who works the edge? I mean, there's been some significant attrition on this, at that position.
Yeah, they really do need to add something defensive end, edge rusher centric. I think they found some answers at the Sam. I think I like the interior defensive line a lot and the ability to come outside and be big when you need. But like, Zadarius Smith is the name I keep coming back to. Is the one that makes the most sense. Like, contract, asking price, type of player he is, knows the division well, and like, I mean, I'm no trade guru, but like, you look at a guy like that at this stage of his career on the contract he's in, and Cleveland is the definition of a dumpster fire right now. So like, you're not giving up first, second, or third round picks for a guy like that. And I think that is where Brad Holmes probably wants to be, because we said it last week, we'll say it again. Like, Brad Holmes, first round and second round picks, are different than other teams' first and second round picks, and he has proven that to be the case. No matter how late they are in the order, I don't see him selling the farm for a Crosby. Doesn't sound like the Raiders are too interested in that, so you're going to have to pay a king's ransom for that. But Zadarius Smith is just the name that makes the most sense across the board. I think I saw ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reporting that they at least kind of checked in on that. So they're grinding the phones, as Dan said earlier this week on the radio. But yeah, I kind of look to like a Smith type veteran that's not going to take the bank, but somebody that can come in and give you above average play there. So yeah, I don't think it's a farm selling move.
Joe Maloney asks, seems like the table is set for the Zadarius Smith trade. Question is he a Dan Campbell guy? Any word on that? I don't know Zadarius Smith personally, but by all accounts, he seems to fit the mold, and physically, he's a thick guy. I think he's 270, 280, somewhere in there. And so and 6'5", 6'6". So I think he fits the physical profile of what they want, and a guy who can squeeze the pocket from the edge. Tons of experience in this league, including winning football over the years in Green Bay. He knows the terrain and the NFC North very well. Hard-nosed player, productive player too. He's got 4 sacks this year. He's got 3 seasons in his career with double-digit sacks. Proven production, good teammate, comes from a winning program. Not so much the past couple of years in Cleveland, but Green Bay before that. So I think it makes a lot of sense. And the asking price, I think, is the biggest deal here, where it wouldn't cost you, 3 first-round picks.
Right. Yeah. He's a powerful, strong pass rusher. I think that's the type they're looking for, just to kind of fit their mold. And I found it fascinating that when Smith kind of got asked about Detroit last week, he's like, yeah, I'd be cool with that. Get to play Minnesota and Green Bay. I'm down for that, which is, you just don't hear that from players openly like that about getting traded somewhere. But yeah, no, I think he's a fit. I think he's a culture fit. I think he's a scheme fit. And I think he's an asking price fit too. So yeah.
Agreed. I think less of a fit as Max Crosby, but that doesn't stop anybody from talking about it. So Cameron Jones asks the question on a lot of people's minds. I've always had the idea of giving up future draft picks for the immediate future. But as a Lions fan, the draft isn't the best part of the year anymore. Why not give up 2 first-round picks for Max Crosby? Him and Hutch for the next several years, our course is pretty strong. We have a stud GM who picks Amon-Ra St. Brown in the 4th round and Aleem McNeil in the 3rd round. Us old guys need a Super Bowl before we die. Let's do it. I think that question from Cameron Jones sums up a lot of feelings, which is, we get why they do what they do, but give us a damn Super Bowl. And obviously Max Crosby would help. And again, I've listened to some sports radio this week. That's kind of where the tenor is right now too. So a lot of people feel that way. I think there's some validity in that. There comes times where it's like, okay, you load up for the moment. I mean, the point of this game is to not maybe win the Super Bowl next year. It's to win the Super Bowl, and you have it in your crosshairs this year. You have a stacked roster, and now you have a clear deficiency at a really important position because of all the injuries, and not just to Hutch, but behind him as well. So I get totally the temptation, and if they were to pull the trigger, I would understand the math behind it. That's not really how they operate. They've turned down opportunities to trade for big name guys before because they want to hold on to the picks, because they want to build this thing through the draft. And it's cliche for anyone to say it, but you can see, you see it now. You see it paying off now because they've extended guys like St. Brown and Sewell and Jared Goff, David Montgomery, Aleem McNeil, these guys who are bedrocks for your program. And you do that because you have the cash on hand, and you have the cash on hand because you're not out there in March overpaying for also-rans, which is, frankly, what happens a lot in free agency. And if you're a Lions fan, you've seen it over the years. I'm a veteran of Trey Flowers signing a freaking $100 million deal and giving you 6 sacks or something like that.
First off season.
Yeah. And at least he was a decent player. He might not have produced because of injuries and whatnot, but Justin Coleman got $9 million a year. That's in that same free agent class. That is what happens when you have to build through the free agency, because that's your option. The Lions are going a totally different route, and they're paying. They're getting the benefits now by getting these second contracts with their own. This is how winning teams do it in the NFL, and being able to control these draft picks for 4 and 5 years. Look at Brian Branch. Acquiring a guy like Brian Branch is going to cost you, the farm. Doing it in the second round of the draft and then controlling him for 4 years on a contract that pays him like 2-3 million a year. Like that is how it frees you up to pay Jared Goff 220 million or whatever he got, 212 million, I think. There's a lot of reasons why building through the draft is best in the NFL, and that's what the Lions are trying to do. Giving up 3 first rounders, which might be what it takes to get Max Crosby.
Yeah.
I love Max Crosby, but you're giving up three guys like Jahmyr Gibbs to go get him, and you have to pay his contract as well. It's going to make you less flexible going forward, and this is why Brad Holmes gets paid the big bucks, because there's pluses and minuses both ways, and he ultimately has to determine what's best for the short term, sure, but with the long term in mind.
Yeah, and we're at the crossing point of Brad Holmes' tenure here. It's one we talked about a couple of years ago, was like, how much Les Snead does he have in his general manager DNA? Because when the Rams got to this point, the Rams were selling every pick they had for players. Jalen Ramsey, Matthew Stafford, like 2 firsters coming back here for that. So I do think that is, how does he change, or does he stay true to the course with the Lions considered a perennial Super Bowl contender, losing one of, if not their most important player in Aiden Hutchinson outside of the quarterback position? And just how does he respond to that? Do they go the Rams route of giving up future firsts or future seconds and high quality picks for guys that are going to help you get to the finish line this year? So yeah, I'm just super curious to see how that happens, if he stays true to his guns. And I lean on the side of him keeping his first and second round picks based on everything you just said, and based on how we've seen this built here, how we've seen it continue to succeed. I would love to see Max Crosby and Aiden Hutchinson play on the same defensive line too. They're 2 freak show strong pass rushers who never leave the field. That would be deeply enjoyable as an enjoyer of football to watch. But I just I look at the Raiders situation and I'm like, there's no way they're taking anything less than 2 first round picks and more on top of that. And I just don't think – I think that is where Holmes differs from his decade plus with the Rams organization and Les Snead. I think he will stick true to his guns and continue to build this thing through the draft. You might see more aggression, but I don't see multiple first-rounders leaving for one singular player.
Yeah, and you just mentioned Les Snead. What are the Rams right now? 1-5?
Yeah. With a lot of rookies.
Because they effed them picks, and it helped them for a year or two, and they were awesome, and then they fell off a cliff, and there's no coming back, I'm afraid. I think in LA, and I think it's really important to keep in mind that the Lions window, they're in a window, but their window is not 1 year. I think it's so important to remember that I mean, look at outside of Jared Goff, look at the best players on this team. They're like all under 25 years old, and they're going to be loaded for 3 years to come at least. And if you start effing them picks, you get Max Crosby, but there's a downside, and I guess that's what I'm trying to articulate, because I really get frustrated listening to the radio right now. If you can't, this is the third time bringing it up. I get frustrated because they make it sound so cut and dry. Yeah. Oh, you have the Super Bowl on the table this year, so go get them, make that call, do it. Why not? I mean, there's a big why not, which is you lose let's say it's 3 first rounders, or even 2 firsts and a second. Those are 3 premium bullets. Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta type players that you've gotten in previous years. Brian Branch was a 45th overall pick. These are the kinds, 3 players like that you're going to miss out on, while also having to pay 20 whatever million a year for Max Crosby. There's a huge downside to it, and it's not so cut and dry. That's the pluses and minuses that Brad Holmes, one of the best in the business, has to weigh.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's the ripple effect of a move like that changes the way you act, changes what you can pay your guys, changes what you can do in the offseason. And it's not Madden, folks. It's not Madden.
Yeah. Chris wants to know, what are the rumors or best bets for an edge rusher? And how many licks before you get to the center of a lollipop? It's a little outside my pay grade. But edge rusher, what do you think is the best bet?
Zadarius Smith, I think, and usually about 3 licks before I bite.
I don't have the patience. I don't have the patience, and it makes my teeth it's too sweet. I don't know. I'm not a huge lollipop fan.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I like the sour ones. I'm a sour guy.
Even worse. Now some ice cream. I'll F it up. Okay, let's turn to the offensive line. John Bloomfield asks if Colby Sorsdale is worse than Coyote Awashika, then neither is going to cut it. to maintain a top flight offensive line going forward. And I'm not buying mononucleosis for Christian Mahogany, the rookie offensive lineman. They can't bleep the picks for edge help with guys still to side. And Taylor Decker, Frank Ragnow, and Graham Glasgow need to be replaced in the next couple of years. It's probably not just that Kevin Settler's on a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
I think, like we talked about going into the draft last year, there's long-term issues, long-term continuity issues on the offensive line, and they didn't really meaningfully address it in the draft last year. So that'll be something going forward, either for agency or especially the draft. And if you start effing the picks, particularly early in the draft, where some of the best offensive tackles can be taken, that's the downside of going after a quick fix in the moment like a Max Crosby.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, there's a reason you loved Jackson Powers Johnson for this team last year. There's a reason why I liked Zach Frazier and Zion Johnson a couple years ago for this team too, because there's pieces to shore up and maintain. Glasgow 2-year deal, Zeitler 1-year deal. Decker just signed his extension, so I wouldn't be kicking his butt out the door too soon. But there are, especially just, I know Frank's a superhero when he's playing like a superhero right now, but you do need to make sure you're good at backup center. You need to make sure that maybe there might be a rookie starting guard on this team next year. Like, I really do think that's a possibility. So yeah, there are concerns on the interior offensive line. Can't really say much on Soar still. They've moved him around much. We haven't seen him practice in 2 months. I think Awashika's better than he gets credit for. I know the first 10 minutes of that game were just about the worst 10 minutes an offensive lineman could ever have, but I really do think he is a quality first guy off the bench type when it's not the center going down. But yeah, they're going to need to add to that room because they are older on the interior. There are injury concerns on the interior. And as you said, Zeitler's on a 1-year deal. So I think you're going to see a lot of mock drafts with guards and centers who can move over to guard this year again. I really do think that. And if you F them picks, let's see how many times we can say that on this podcast, you shorten your chances of solidifying the offensive line that helped you get this far in the first place.
Yeah, it's about identity and culture. Like, everyone, you got to be about something, and the lines are about a lot under Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
But powerful offensive line play is a common denominator for this team. The defense has gotten a lot better. Obviously, you got some good specialists going on. I mean, there's a lot of good things happening in Detroit. There's a reason you're at this perch right now at 5-1. But what do they do best? It's pounding the living daylights out of people on the ground offensively and beating them over the top, and all these trick plays with, like, do you need to have protection? Like, look at what Minnesota just tried to do to you. They were blitzing the heck out of Jared Goff, and Jared Goff was like, I think I saw 11-13 against the blitz.
Unbelievable.
And a big reason for that is because they're picking up the blitz. You got Penei Sewell blocking 2 guys on a touchdown play over the top to Amon-Ra St. Brown, a brilliant pass.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen if Penei Sewell is a freak of nature who takes on 2 guys, and like this is the strength of the team. This is probably the best offensive line in football, and it makes everything else go. People love Jahmyr Gibbs. They love David Montgomery. Like, okay, but like, you have one of the most diverse blocking run schemes in the league. Like, you need to feed the strength and keep it going. And I think we're getting to that point now where premium draft capital will be spent on the offensive line. That's just kind of where they're at.
Yeah, it is. The only thing I'd add is Manu. I'm fascinated to see if they try him at guard next training camp. I know that's looking ahead a mile, but you're set at tackle and you spend a 3rd-round pick on that guy. Maybe try and find a way to use him next year. And massive size on the inside would be fascinating, but it's got to work. He was a lottery ticket.
Yeah. 4th round, but I won't hold it against you.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, that's right.
I won't hold it against you. Kim Mann wants to know what's the word on Iffy and John Kaminsky, any timeline of which they may return and help us in with the pass rush. Melifonwu is eligible to play as soon as the Green Bay game, which is next week, but we haven't seen him on the practice field yet. So guessing that's still 2 or 3 weeks away. I don't at minimum. He tried playing through the injury. It's a weird case because he tried playing through the injury in training camp. In practice, he even played in Kansas City, and I saw him
that's right,
coming out of the locker room limping. I'm like, oh, interesting. And he has practiced 1 day since. He took a couple weeks off, practiced 1 day. He was back out. The Lions didn't put him on IR initially, hoping he'd come back in just a couple of weeks. And here we are in week 7 or whatever, and he's still not practicing. So it's got to be real frustrating for him in a contract year and coming off a big year last year. Like, there's a real opportunity to build on what happened for him down the stretch last year to prove that he could stay healthy and be impactful and cash in next year. And that's clearly not happening. I'm not sure when he'll play, but certainly the Lions want him to play because they could use the help in the blitz and in the pass rush from anywhere they can get on the defense.
God, yeah.
And Kaminsky, there's just no word there. I think probably playoffs at the earliest.
Yeah, that was the last update we had on Kamish, was like best case playoffs. But I'll say this about Melifonwu. Getting like weird, he's in the room vibes every time Dan is asked about him. So it just feels like a strange situation there. But if he's able to get back, man, they can find a way to use him, especially on the quest to manufacture a pass rush. I looked it up before we were recording. The Lions are already 4th in the NFL with a 32.8% blitz rate on dropbacks. That's going to grow. That's just going to continue to grow. And if you could get Melifonwu back, add some blitz from the slot, add some blitz looks from the safety, there's a chance for him, but you got to get him back on the field. And it was just kind of a slow process with no updates. And then all of a sudden he was on injured reserve, but he's been in the locker room a couple times. We'll see if he works his way back, but they need every piece they can get, especially when it comes to disrupting the quarterback, man.
Joseph Martin asks, fellas, back-to-back games from Terry and Arnold without penalties.
Nice.
What else does the tape show? Is he making progress? Absolutely.
Mhm.
I think he's coming off inarguably his best game in the pros. Last week in Minnesota, that's a pretty tough assignment.
Yeah.
They got some good players over there. Jordan Addison, number 18's all right.
Yeah, he's okay.
JJ's okay too. Sam Darnold was playing great football, and Tyrion Arnold allowed 3 catches for 35 yards. That was it. No TDs. In fact, hasn't allowed TDs since week 2. I actually think like Tyrion Arnold for a rookie has played pretty well.
Yes.
It's the penalty. Is like he hasn't played within the confines of what's allowed in terms of contact, and that's the big thing. But like the questioner asked, pointed out the no penalties the last 2 weeks. Like maybe he's finding his way, and I continue to really like his game outside of the penalty issue.
Yeah, it's kind of why I wasn't freaking out when he had 8 penalties or whatever it was through 4 games, because he's there in coverage. He's sticky in coverage. He's playing physical, too sticky, too handsy. But those are things that the Lions and Terry and Arnold talked about, things that they felt they could improve and grow upon and work on the technique. And I think that's what you're seeing the last 2 weeks. I like where he's at. This might blow people away, but like as a starting rookie cornerback in the NFL, they're not all Sauce Gardners, is like you'd say, exceeding initial expectations. I do think, because that's like one of the toughest gigs in the NFL is cornerback, make it a rookie and adjusting to these rules for what you can do and what you can't do. He's getting better every single week. He's cleaning things up, and that's all you could ask for.
Ben, we've got more good questions. We are totally out of time.
Practice.
The doors are already open to practice, so we got to get out there. But Lions 5-1, yep. Titans 1-5. I think we all know what to expect at Ford Field.
Mason Rudolph.
But the Jamo suspension is something to watch this week. What the Lions do to account for that, and the continued search for help on the edge, internally as well as across the league, will be very fascinating to watch going forward.
Yeah, it's go out there and beat a team you should beat.
Bottom line.